Hello, my name is Steve Mace from Solwise. Just going to do a quick introduction video now on a new dual radio mesh product that we're stocking, which is a 5 gig and a 2.4 gig mesh unit, which basically means we've got a 5 gig mesh backbone and a 2.4 gig for local coverage. As I say, it's dual radio. Each radio is 300 meg 11N. That's 2 transmit, 2 receive. This is an outdoor product, so we have a normal IP rating outdoor plastic housing. Internally we have 2 fixed Omni 5 gig antennas and 2 fixed Omni 2.4 gig antennas, and all the antennas are between 5 and 6 dBi, which would give a mesh to mesh range of approximately 200 meters, round about there, maybe a bit more. Depends what sort of backbone throughput you're trying to attain. If we just go over the pictures of the device we've got here, it's a pole mount device, so it actually comes with a pole mount kit which attaches to the back of the unit. Here is the back of the unit. This is where the pole mount bracket fixes. We've got 2 RJ45 weatherproof LAN ports. One is a WAN port, which is used for the gateway unit. I'll come to that later on. And the other is a LAN port stroke PoE port. This is the kit of bits that you actually get with it. Pole mount accessories, the 2 RJ45 connecting points, and obviously the PoE device that it comes with. What else can I tell you about this? I think that's basically it as far as the hardware side is concerned. So now just a quick introduction about the actual operation of the unit. When you operate it, you have 2 distinct modes. You operate it as the gateway. The gateway is the unit which actually connects to your internet source, so that's the route that your internet takes to the rest of the network, rest of the Wi-Fi network. Or you configure them as relay nodes, and as relay nodes they are essentially acting as intelligent mesh routing repeaters. Okay, so now let's go on about configuration and setup of the device. The big plus point that we see in this product is it introduces the idea of cloud management for the mesh configuration and mesh architecture. So whereas in the good old days, configuration of such products like this used to go into a web interface into each individual unit, or maybe into one unit to do a blanket mesh configuration, which made it difficult if you actually wanted to do it remotely. This new range of mesh products actually facilitates doing it via a cloud-based service. So on the cloud-based service, essentially you log into the cloud-based service, and from there you can select all your different mesh networks at various different sites. And what happens is the mesh nodes themselves communicate directly with that mesh site through their internet link. Okay, so now let's go into the actual mesh management software. So let me just log into the website for it, if I can remember the I think that's it. Okay, so the first thing you're asked to do when you actually first connect to the mesh site is to actually register. And obviously I've already registered using a username and password, so now I can go straight to login. Right, so this is the sort of screen that comes up once you've actually gone through and configured a mesh setup. Let me just zoom in a bit so we can see a bit better what's going on. So on here, make it into a satellite picture, makes it look a little bit prettier. I've got a simple mesh setup of a gateway and 2 relays, and beneath here we actually have information details on, in this case, the 3 mesh units. So we've got the gateway here indicated by the G. We have the MAC address of the device, mesh ID, uptime, and last check-in time. So that's the last time that the unit actually logged in and checked with the Meshworks site. Tells you various information like the amount of memory free, latency to itself, so obviously that's not applicable, the model, etc, etc, etc. And if we actually click on any of these mesh nodes here, it comes up with a quick information screen. So yet again, a lot of it's just replicating what's down here, but it also tells you something about the neighbours that it's currently talking to. So at the moment this gateway is actually communicating with relay 2. Relay 2, as you can see, is one of the ones itemized down the bottom here. It also will tell you about any client users connected to it. At the moment there are no client users connected to it. Shut that down. If we look at relay 2, yet again that's showing it's got two relays, two neighbours. Obviously it's talking to the gateway, and it's able to talk to relay 1. And it's also saying that it's got one client. Basically I've got a notebook in the office here switched on, connected to the mesh network. If we click on edit on any of these mesh nodes, okay, so on the editing side we can see a mesh point name, the MAC address of the mesh, description field. So these are fields that I've entered when I actually created the mesh nodes. I'll show you how it's done later on. We also have various settings which can be overridden for a particular mesh node, or can be set to use the default network settings, which yet again I'll show you later on. So this is whether you want it to sit rebooting if it has problems talking to the controller for any reason. That's the cloud mesh management. Deal whether you want to individually alter the output power, whether you want to have firmware frozen on it. So do you want it to do auto firmware upgrading or not from the mesh setup? Yet again, what sort of channels you want it to respond to, etc, etc, etc. And this is actually how you choose the channel, but that's actually fixed in the network settings screen, which I'll come to in a minute. So also down here you have a map, and if we zoom in on the map, we go from the map screen, we can actually pick up and move the relay around. Now these are just randomly scattered around on a map of our office, but obviously in real life you could have a site map here and intelligently place the devices on the map. So now we'll just go back to the main screen again. Okay, so what else can we do on here? Well, we've got various reports. So if I click on that report thing there, so we've got various reports that we can actually bring up. So it's giving you basic outage information for each of the devices. But what we can also do is we can actually produce logs for devices. So for example, we could actually produce a log for the various mesh units on here, and this is how we can search. So if we've got lots of them, we can actually search down the list. Just go back. And let's go to network settings. Okay, so this is the main blanket control for the network that you've created. And if I just quickly run down these, obviously contact email addresses, time zones, the country, whether you're using this with internet connectivity or not. Now you haven't got much of a choice really. If you want to use the cloud mesh management, you've got to use it with internet connectivity, otherwise it won't work. Whether you want to use a standard global map, or whether you actually want to import your own map, the environment. What else we got down here? We've got the SSID settings. Now when you create the device for the local coverage, you have an option of create the network. So you have the option of how many SSIDs you want to set up. Now the minimum is 2 SSIDs, so you have a public and a private SSID. Each one going to have different settings for security, etc, etc. Come down to here, you've got user access conditions. Basically, do you want it to be a standard open system? and here you can actually spec download limits per user. The other type of access condition is a user agreement. This is very similar to the open, except all it does is when a person tries to get to the internet, it first of all comes up with a splash page that you could have pre-prepared. So this is basically just a HTML page that says, "Hi, welcome to Joe Blogs Internet," or something like that. And the last thing here is to use an internet access controller. Now, as I say, when I've been speaking about this product so far, I've been talking about using the cloud mesh controller. But the system does actually have the flexibility to use a local access controller server. Now, I'm not going to cover this, and the reason I'm not going to cover this is because the price of the local internet access controller server is absolutely horrendous. So horrendous, I don't think we'll ever sell any, so I'm not going to go over that point. Let's just say it's thousands of pounds, so we won't even think about that. So let's just go back to a normal open network. Here we have, yet again, these are the global settings for do you want to reboot with no controller, so if it can't get to the internet, do you want it to sit there rebooting, the transport power for the mesh side, SSH password for SSH access, whether you want the firmware to be frozen, whether you want isolation for users on the different SSIDs. So I've ticked that to say yes, I do want isolation, so we've got user-to-user isolation through the mesh. Country, the models used to set up for, so in this case we're using a 546 product, so you can see 546 is one of the units mentioned here. The channel you want to use for the mesh backbone. Now when I talk about channels, this is actually what we would class as a Class B product, or a Band B product, so it cannot be used on Band C. It doesn't meet all the strict rules required by Ofcom for Band C usage, so this can be used on Band B, and the Band B channels are basically 100 to 140. The channels at the bottom here, 36 to 64, are for indoor usage only, cannot be used for outdoor, so they cannot be selected or should not be selected for this device when it's used in an outdoor environment. So you can select the channel that you want on Band B, and of course what I shouldn't need to tell you, but just need reminding about, of course, is that you need to ensure that when you actually select it for outdoor use, that you ensure that the output power is kept below or less than or equal to the 30 dBm maximum permitted for Band B usage. Now, as it happens, even on maximum power, this device will not exceed the 30 dBm. You've got the antenna gain, I say, of about 5 to 6 dBi, so I suppose that means that technically you can get away with a maximum power of about 24 dBm, and that just happens to fit in what the maximum power of this device is. So out of the box, maximum power, and you are technically legal. Then we come down to the, this is the coverage channel, so this is the 2.4 gig side, this is the local coverage for the client connectivity. And it's set up here for standard 11NG using a 20 meg wide channel. We can select the actual coverage channel. I've just left it on auto, so it will try and sort itself out. And here we have information about where the devices need to go on the cloud mesh setup for the firmware. We have a bridge mode here, which basically means, do you want the whole network to be transparent with your main network, or do you want the gateway, that's the unit which actually gives access between your router and the mesh, do you want the gateway to be a NAT router? Normally I would advise people to actually use it in bridge mode so it's transparent, because it just makes life less complicated. So in that case, the DHCP, etc., is all coming from your main internet router. And at the bottom here we just got whether you want to set up tagged VLAN traffic on the various SSIDs. So that's the basic setup screen for the device. So what I'm going to do now is just show you how quick and easy it is to configure and set up a network on this cloud system. So I'm going to start from scratch, so I'm going to delete the current network that's here. Now when it does delete, it asks for a confirmation password. Just just to stop you accidentally deleting a vital network. So now the network is deleted, and I'd only had one network, so it's coming up warning me that we haven't got any networks left now. So by default, because I haven't got any networks left, it's gone straight to create network. So this is obviously, so first of all it's just asking for some background information, my email address, things like country zone, we're in the UK, yes we're going to use it with the internet, yes we want to use world maps rather than a custom map, I'm not going to bother loading a custom map, we're using an outdoor environment. By default it comes up with the normal dual radio devices, so we're using a 546, so 546 is listed here. And as you see, as I said before, you can have multiple local SSIDs, so I'm just going to stick with the standard 2 SSIDs for this, and I'm going to click on create network. Okay, so we've come up with a general map of Europe, because we selected the UK as our country code. Now what we need to do now is add some mesh points. So down the menu options here, we've got one called add mesh point. So first of all, going to put in the gateway. So just to make life easy, I'm going to call it gateway. Now we need to put in the MAC address. Now each of these nodes actually has 4 MAC addresses. It has a LAN, a WAN, and it has 2 wireless MAC addresses. It has a wireless MAC address for the local 2.4 gig coverage and a wireless MAC address for the 5 gig backbone. Now what it's actually asking here for is the MAC address of the 5 gig backbone. Now the MAC addresses are all printed on the end of each of the mesh units, and rather sensibly I've actually already written these down, and here it's just coming up with the ones that I've entered before. So to save time, I'm just going to select one that I did before, the gateway I entered before. Now things I've discovered: you must use colons to separate the digits of the MACs, just like you see here, and you must use uppercase. If you try to use lowercase, it comes up with an error. And if it's anything like the scenario I went through, you then spend about 15 minutes trying to find out why the hell it won't accept the MAC address. So uppercase separated by colons. Description, well, I'm going to make life easy again, just call it gateway. All the other things I'm going to leave on the defaults, which basically means use the settings as given in the global network settings. And I'm now going to create the mesh point. Okay, I haven't fixed the position of it yet. I'll come back and do that later after I've added all 3 of them. Now, just to cover things here, you notice there is actually an import mesh points, which actually means you can actually create a dirty great big CSV file with all the information and do it in one go. But for such a small mesh like this, it's actually just as quick just to type the information in. So let's do the next one, which is 045B28, I believe. 5B28, that's that one. And I'm going to call this relay 1 just to be just make life easy. Create mesh point, and now I'm going to add the final mesh point, and guess what, I'm going to call it relay 2. Obviously in real life you call these exciting names like out by the outhouse or cabin roof or something like that. And now I'm just going to put in the 598C MAC address of this one, call this relay 2. Yet again, global network settings are fine for this example here. Create mesh point. So now what I'm actually going to do is fix these on the map. So I'm going to now edit each location again, and we'll just zoom in. Right, let's just move this roughly across to down here to Hull, like that. Now I'm going to drag that to the middle of the screen and zoom in again. Just trying to think where our offices are on this map. I think they're about there. So we'll do that. zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Let's make it satellite so we can see a bit better. So yeah, our offices are roughly here. So I'm just going to roughly do this for now. This is just showing you basically how you set it up, that's all. Zoom in a bit more, and we're going to save that. So that's the gateway placed on the map. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the relay unit, or one of the relay units. Let's just zoom out a bit so we've got a bit less resolution. Pick this up, go down here to hull again. I'm going to guess about there. Right, let's do that. And there we are again, so we'll just bang that on there, any old spot. Save the settings for that. And we'll just do the final unit. Excuse me. Final unit. Over here. Down. Zoom in. Down here somewhere. God, isn't this isn't the Humber looking nice and blue? It never looks like that in real life. It's just a dirty, filthy, muddy grey or brown in real life. Just zoom in a bit. Yeah, I've effectively dumped that on top of our building there. You can see our building there. So let's just zoom in a bit more. And that will do for the purpose of this. So let's save that. Let's zoom in here. Now at the moment we've let's make a satellite makes it look a little bit prettier. We've got two crosses for the relays, but we have actually got a G there. What's actually happening now is each of the devices is actually connecting to the cloud site and downloading its configuration. Now it does actually take a good 10 minutes for this to go, for all of the units to actually go through their various connectivity and cycling stages. So at the moment all we've got is the gateway unit, which checked in 48 seconds ago, and we're still waiting for the two relay units to actually do the connection. So what I'm going to do now is just pause this video for about another 5 or 10 minutes, just to give it time for these two relay units to log back in, and then we can come back and look at this screen. Okay, so here we are. It's actually a bit more than 10 minutes. I've had a chance to have a cup of coffee. But finally you can see now that we've actually got all the units connected here. You can see they've got properly lit icons here. And we've got some check-in times here. So that basically covers the setup really. Let me just cover a few points which I missed, which I've been thinking about while I was having a cup of coffee. Let me just bring up the our browser again. One thing I didn't talk about was the actual lights on the back of the products. If I go back here and look at the image we've got of the back of the product, you notice we actually have 4 indicator LEDs. We've got power, and we've got Ethernet, and we've got 2 signal strength indicators for the Wi-Fi. Initially the devices have a red light and a green power light here, sorry, a green LAN light here. When they're finally all connected up, operational, all the radios up, and they're actually connected to the cloud, these lights all change, and what you get is a yellow light here, and you should have 3 greens. So I'm just leaning across to check. Yeah, that's right. You've got a yellow here, and you've got 3 green lights here. The other thing was to discuss the rear ports on it. Remember I said there were 2 RJ45 ports on the back. The left hand one is LAN, and PoE. So it's LAN for local client connectivity, local copper-based, LAN-based connectivity, and also that supplies the power. The right port is the WAN port. The WAN port is only used for the gateway unit, so all the repeating relays only use the LAN. The gateway has to have LAN for power only, and it has a WAN port for internet connectivity. So this is how the device is determined as to whether they are gateways or relays. What they actually do is they check to see if the WAN port is in operation. If the WAN port is in operation, then it's the gateway unit. That's the unit that actually connects to the internet. So that covers that aspect of it. And let's just go back to here and think of here. So that covers what I was going to planning to talk about this product. As you can see, it's quite a nice simple product to set up. We've had them here running for several months, and they seem to be stable and reliable. We haven't had any downtime at all out of them. Quite good coverage, quite respectable throughputs. And of course, as far as I'm concerned, the big plus point for this new range of products is this cloud-based management. With this setup, obviously, it now means that you can have a single remote point. You can actually monitor and configure all of your networks from a single location. You don't have to be going out to site just to check the connectivity and check performance and etc, etc, etc. You can do it all remotely using the cloud system. So all you need to do is you set up the cloud, you create multiple different networks, and you can just flip between them on this package. Quite a good thing, I think, and I hope you like the products. Thank you very much.